Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Crypt13, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Shimenawa set. This set is by far one of the most interesting sets to come to Genshin Impact, in my opinion, and it completely changes the playstyle and build style for whichever character wants to run this 4-piece set. So let's start with an explanation of what this artifact set even does. The 2-piece set bonus starts off pretty simple. It just gives you an 18% attack percent bonus. The 4-piece set, however, gives us an interesting ability. When you use your elemental skill, if you have 15 or more energy, you will lose 15 energy, and your normal charged and plunging attack damage gets a damage bonus of 50% for 10 seconds. So since we are losing 15 energy when we pop an E-skill, this set bonus is really trying to gear your playstyle to relying on your character's normal charged and plunging attacks and elemental skill while foregoing your elemental burst. At least that's what it seems like on the surface level, and we'll get into a little bit more detail about that later. So if we equip this 4-piece set bonus, you're going to have a really hard time casting your elemental burst because you're going to keep losing 15 energy whenever you use an E-skill. So if the net energy you gain from using an E-skill is not more than 0, it's going to be incredibly hard to recharge your elemental burst. Because if you have 15 energy exactly, you are instantly going to lose that upon using your E-skill. And of course, using your E-skill will generate you some more energy particles, but definitely not enough to make up for the lost 15 energy because of the 4-piece set bonus. You'll also get some particles from attacking enemies, but now it's completely dependent on how many you are fighting. And of course, we are under the assumption that we have pretty much no energy recharge on our build. So before I continue on, let's try to remember how energy generation works. So if you already understand this mechanic, feel free to skip this section. So here's a table that shows us how much energy we regenerate for every particle or orb that we gain. There are 3 main things that you have to know about this, and it is the element of the particle, whether the character that you're using is actively on the field, or if they are inactive and just sitting in the back of your party. So if the active character is the same element as the particle that they gained, they will gain 3 energy per elemental particle. If it is a different element, they will only gain 1 energy. And if it's non-elemental, they will gain 2. You gain non-elemental particles by damaging and killing enemies. And the same goes for orbs. Also, some enemies drop elemental particles and orbs, like slimes and abyss mages. If the character is not actively on the field, then they will only gain 1.8 energy if the particle is the same element as them, and they will only gain 0.6 energy if it is a different element. So energy recharge is kind of a scarce resource depending on the situation that you are in. If there are not too many enemies, you won't be able to generate particles and orbs by hurting them and killing them. And if you are a character that doesn't generate very many particles with their E-skill, then you're gonna have some energy recharge problems. So this begs the question, which characters can actually generate a decent amount of particles with just 1 use of their E-skill? And don't get this confused with how many particles they can generate per second, because we don't actually care about the time. We just care about how much we can generate with a single button press, because the 4-piece set bonus drains 15 energy with a single use of your elemental skill. However, the closer the cooldown of your skill is to 10 seconds, the better it is, since you can maintain uptime on the 4-piece set bonus. This means characters that generate 5 elemental particles are the only ones that have a 0 net energy gain with each use of their elemental skill. But if we account for hitting enemies as well, maybe we can reduce that to maybe around 12 or 9 energy. So I'm going to put up a list of characters that generate at least 3 particles on their E-skill, and some honorable mentions as well, like Albedo and Fischl, since while their skill is out, they continually generate particles. I'm not going to go through this whole list because it's quite long, so please pause the video and you can see how many particles each character generates. Also remember that energy particle generation is sometimes random, so sometimes they can generate more or a little bit less. For example, with a character like Eula, sometimes she generates 2 particles and sometimes she generates 3. So let's go through some scenarios to kind of understand why the loss of 15 energy upon using your E-skill is going to prevent you from generating enough energy to cast your elemental burst. So let's first say that we are starting with 0 energy. Well, with 0 energy, we're actually not even going to proc the 4-piece set because you need at least 15 energy in order to get the bonus. So it doesn't really matter there. So let's say we start off with around 15 energy. What happens here is that upon using our E-skill, we will instantly lose all of that energy, but then we are going to generate some from our elemental skill and recover about 9 to 12 energy depending on how many particles you actually generated. And also assuming that you have 0% extra energy recharge. But then of course we also have to account for the enemies surrounding us. Let's say that we have about 4 enemies, but we don't actually kill them, but we do get them down to an HP threshold for them to generate some particles. So that's about 4 non-elemental particles or 8 energy. So in this situation here, we actually do get a positive return in our energy, but it's very, very small. So it's going to become that much harder to actually recharge our elemental burst. But of course, we also can't forget the energy that our other characters are generating. But if they are of a different element, the amount of energy that we are getting back from them is very, very small. Let's say that our other 3 party members generate an average of 3 particles with their E-skill. So that's going to be 9 particles times 0.6 since our character with the 4-piece Shimenawa set is going to be inactive. That's only 5.4 energy, assuming again that we have 0% extra energy recharge. If one of your party members was of the same element, you would have regenerated 9 energy instead. And then swapping back into our character with the 4-piece set, once they pop that elemental skill, we're going to lose 15 energy, which is pretty much all of the energy that our other teammates generated for us. So our positive net energy comes from either the character using the 4-piece set or from our teammates, but it cannot be both. You can think of it whichever way you want, but just know that it cannot be both. So with these scenarios, it really does seem like generating enough energy for our elemental burst is quite the arduous task. It's 100% going to be harder than if you didn't run this 4-piece set bonus. Now, what if our elemental burst is already charged? In this situation, it's going to be easier to use your elemental burst and make use of the 4-piece set bonus at the same time. So let's take a character here as a prime example. I'm going to use Xiao. So if we swap into Xiao with his burst already up and we use an E-skill to get the buff, he's going to lose 15 energy and we're going to be unable to use the burst right away. First, what needs to happen is that we're going to need to wait a little bit to get the particles from his skill and from damaging the enemies. His skill generates 3 particles, and since it's a matching element, it's going to regenerate 9 energy for him if we are assuming, again, 0% extra energy recharge. So that's not quite enough to get his elemental burst back, but it only requires 3 non-elemental particles from damaging enemies to get back 15 energy. However, there is another way to get more energy, and that's using another Animo character to generate particles, and then immediately switching into Xiao and casting his E-skill. But you'll need to do this fast enough so he doesn't absorb the particles from the other Animo character before he's able to get his skill off. In this situation, we would be able to use our burst while having the bonus from the 4-piece set. And you'll probably want to be very careful about spamming both of Xiao's E-skills in that case, because you're going to lose 30 energy, and it's going to be really hard to make up 30 energy if you don't have any assistance from energy recharge or other characters, or having enough enemies to generate more particles from. Let's do one more quick example with Hu Tao. Hu Tao generates about 2 to 3 particles at the start of her E-skill, and then another 2 to 3 at the end of her E-skill, usually averaging around 5 total particles with a single use of her elemental skill. So for Hu Tao with 0% energy recharge, she breaks completely even with the 4-piece set bonus. So that means while damaging enemies and killing enemies, she's definitely going to be positive on her energy returns. So Hu Tao might be a really good candidate for the 4-piece set bonus. So you really need to think about how much energy a character can regenerate with just a single use of their E-skill, and it's also going to depend largely on the team comp that you are running. If you run an extra character of the same element as the character that runs the 4-piece set bonus, then you'll definitely have an easier time recharging your elemental burst. So I'm trying to illustrate the point that it might be very difficult in a lot of common situations to use your bursts unless you build your team and use your entire team's skills in a very specific way. And I say the word common situations because there are definitely events and challenges where, for example, they spawn tons and tons of enemies. So in that case, you'll be generating tons and tons of particles from damaging and killing enemies. A prime example is with the Golden Archipelago event. There was a challenge that spawned tons and tons of ruin guards, and those enemies generate tons of elemental orbs. So you just regenerate tons of energy. So in that case, the 4-piece Shimenawa set would be a really, really good choice to run for that challenge. I also said this tons of times while talking about this, but we assumed that our energy recharge was at the default 100%. So we can definitely solve this problem as well if we build for energy recharge. And so there are definitely a couple of ways to do this. The first way is to just build energy recharge using the Sans piece with your artifacts. You're going to lose 46.6% attack, but at a high level, you're exchanging that for 50% damage bonus to your normal charged and plunging attacks for 10 seconds upon using an E skill. And you're going to get 51.8% energy recharge from the Sans piece and a small 18% attack bonus from the 2-piece set. The second way is obviously through your substats. So I think that if you're going to farm for this set and you want to be able to use your elemental bursts a little bit more freely, then you'll definitely want to be holding on to pieces that have energy recharge as its substat. And then the last way that I can think of to solve this problem is using the Electro Traveler. The Electro Traveler skills are very tailored towards increasing your energy and energy recharge for the team. I will be making a video going over the Electro Traveler because their new skills are unlike anything we've seen before, and I think the ability to do that is valuable in of its own, even if it turns out that it's not that much. At the end of the day, building enough energy to get more than 15 from your E skill is going to allow us to have a positive return on the 4-piece set bonus. And so as long as you have a positive return there, then that's going to allow you to actually use your elemental burst a little bit more frequently. And now the 2-piece set bonus. It's basically a farmable 2-piece gladiator set, but it can also be combined with the gladiator set to give us 36% extra attack percent. This definitely opens up a lot of different options to be flexible with our Sans artifact piece. We can now run something else instead of attack percent on that piece. We can run elemental mastery or energy recharge, for example. Obviously, we are going to be losing a little bit of attack percent because it's 36 versus 46.6. But in order to make up for that, you only need 2 or 3 attack percent subset rolls in order to match a plus 20 attack percent artifact Sans piece. So let me know down in the comments below what other characters you think would be really good for this set. Personally, for me, the 2 characters that I gave examples with are the 2 that I think are going to benefit really greatly from the 4-piece set bonus. I am also curious how replacing our attack percent Sans with an energy recharge is going to affect our overall damage output. So if you're interested in those calculations, I definitely recommend you hit the subscribe button, because since I'm interested in that, I'm definitely going to be looking into that. But anyway, this is the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, and until next time, I will see you guys later.